Hi, everyone. This is Dee. Welcome to Eternal Evolution of Self. I have another beautiful guest with me today. This is Stephanie. Stephanie, thank you for coming on the podcast today. I really appreciate you being here. Tell us about yourself today and what you do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dee. It's my pleasure. So, I'm Stephanie, and I'm super excited to be here today. I am a LMSW, so a licensed master social worker, and also focus on health coaching, life coaching, wellness as a whole. But my true heart and soul lies within being a mom. So, I am a mom to my 6-year-old daughter, and I also definitely love being outdoors. That's my fills my bucket is being outside and in the sunshine, in the rain, even like today. But it's definitely that's kind of who I am as a whole. I love being outside. I love being a mom, it's my passion to help others as a whole.
That's awesome. And you love helping others. I do too. That's one of the reasons I started doing this podcast was because that's what I want to do. I want to help everyone and getting different people on here who have different mindsets and different perspectives on things and bring things forward in different ways is really important because not everyone receives information in the same way. So tell us how you help people.
Absolutely. So I started out my journey, actually a little fun fact. I was a in law enforcement as a police officer for many years before I had my daughter. And life events happened, and I unfortunately had to take a career shift, but still wanted to help and guide people in a different capacity. I also felt that as a police officer, I wasn't able to really help people to the extent that I wanted to or felt that I should be able to. It was like kind of a one meet you incident, and then that was it. So I decided to pursue my passion in health coaching and life coaching. I feel that a lot of it was to help myself essentially with what I was going on or what I
Mhm.
had going on. And I was in a very abusive relationship, so I just needed some help and guidance, and it was very hard for me to reach out for help. So I wanted to really empower other people that it's okay. It's nothing to be scared of or embarrassed about because that's how I felt in the moment. And so I basically I went to school to become a certified health coach and life coach to teach myself first how to love myself and nurture my soul and refill my cup and do self-care for myself so I could be the best version of myself, not only for me, but my little one at the time. And then I took it a step further and wanted to really help other people to a bigger capacity and became a well, I should say, became a licensed master social worker and got my master degree in social work.
That's amazing. Isn't it curious how we don't want to reach out at those darkest places in our lives? Because I was in the same situation and I had the same things, like I didn't want to reach out. There's still things that I haven't talked to, my family members about. And, there's just a very few people who know some of the details. And a lot of it I still don't talk about. I like to say it's water under the bridge and it's not affecting my life. It really truly isn't affecting my life anymore, thankfully, but it's a process. So how did you get to the place where you were reaching out? And was it just the coaching, education that you got that helped you get there? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So I'm a very independent person. I like to figure things out myself. It's always been very challenging for me to ask for help. So it was a huge step for me to realize it's okay. I feel that society, especially as a police officer at the time, I mean, anyone going through something challenging or difficult, experiencing something challenging or difficult, it's stigmatized that you're weak if you reach out for help, which is not the case at all. But that was my mentality in the very beginning. And then once I started surrounding myself around other people, like-minded people who were either going through the same thing, going through something similar, or had moved past that and were able to kind of break free from that stigma or that I like to think of it as like a you're in a what like a box almost, like you're in a box. You kind of break those walls down. So
Mm,
I believe I started doing that for myself because I hid it a lot. So nobody really saw it
mm,
and nobody really like, I don't want to say didn't believe me, but were shocked when I slowly started telling people that I trusted. Um, and I, at the time, felt weak, I guess, is for lack of a better term. And I didn't want to come across as a weak person. But I feel that being vulnerable actually empowers us. And
mhm.
that's something that I learned and again started to discover for myself once I embraced myself in my health and life coaching school and certification. I started learning through others how I can embrace and empower myself and have self-compassion for myself because we often forget to treat ourselves, with the same kindness and understanding that we offer to others.
Mm.
So it's not about self-indulgence. It's about recognizing and sharing that humanity, kind of treating yourself with the same kindness that you would a good friend, embracing our flaws, embracing our mistakes, our imperfections. And I feel that that makes us beautifully human when we do.
Yes, I totally agree with you. It really truly doesn't. I think there's, we're still so driven by, you know, different media posts and stuff like that from influencers that you have to look a certain way and things in your life should be a certain way and all of that. And even as coaches, like even when you're looking at the world of coaches, some of us feel like we have to present ourselves in this like completely together package that looks so pretty on the outside, but the truth of the matter is we're all human and we all have days, no matter how many years you've been a coach or whatever, there's days when you don't have it together. It's hard. So I think embracing that authentic, real part of yourself and allowing others to see glimpses of that. I mean, like you don't want to get on there boohooing your head off and trying to inspire people in that way because that's not going to work either. But letting people know that you're human too and you have wants, needs, desires, and hard days just like everyone else. I think that's truly impactful.
Yes, absolutely.
And you said you approach the whole person. You said that in our pre-chat. So I'd like for you to maybe expound on that a little bit and let people know what you mean by that and how you do that.
Absolutely. So, something that really helped me and still helps me to this day, and I'm always embracing and encouraging my clients as well, and I mean, people I care about, is self-care. That's huge for me. And I definitely feel that looking at someone as a whole is so important. And what I mean by a whole, I envision a wheel, for example, and um, I like to use the self-care wheel. And it breaks up, again, this is kind of like for the visual people out there. I'm very visual. This helps me kind of see the person as a whole, us as a whole. So, like physically, professionally, even like your career, that's part of who we are, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, personally. All of that kind of embodies who we are as a whole. And it's important to view these pieces of our lives as a whole and see where we're at, kind of self check in with ourselves and look to see, okay, what area is being nourished and what area is depleted and needs more nourishment, because it's extremely important to nourish ourselves. Self-care extends to how we nourish our bodies as a whole. And I mean, it can look so different for so many people as well, but it's extremely important to make sure that all areas of your life are being nourished.
Mm. And what do you mean by that? Because I mean, like I have a little experience in the coaching world, so I kind of get it. But for people who this terminology is new to them and they don't exactly understand what you mean by that, could you explain it a little more, please?
Absolutely, I would love to. So when I'm saying physical, that's kind of like your movement. I don't like to use the term workout because that can deter some people. So it's whatever movement looks like for you. It could be dancing, stretching, yoga. It maybe could be working out. I'm an avid horseback rider. I love riding my horses, running. That's my movement. So making sure that you're getting outside and moving, I know that sometimes that can be challenging for some people too. So it could be something like stretching, maybe even swimming, just getting outside and moving, because today we're sitting around a lot. Even standing can be huge and and very important and healthy for the body. Psychological, that's more like a self-awareness. So it could be kind of your mental health, your mental well-being, which also goes into the emotional piece of it as well. So it's emotionally kind of checking in with yourself. How am I feeling right now? In the therapy world, there's a check-in model modality that we use. It's called MEPS. So mentally, how are you feeling emotionally, physically, and spiritually? I also like to kind of keep it short and sweet. So sometimes just kind of like taking 60 seconds to say, okay, what am I feeling right now? It can be anything. It could be sad, mad, it could be frustrated, it could be tingly. I mean, sometimes with emotions, we have physical reactions too. Spiritually, it could be what your spiritual faith is. For some people, a lot of people that I've worked with, they don't really have a specific religion per se. So spirituality doesn't necessarily mean religion, but
Right.
it can mean like community. It could mean like if you're a part of a book club, that could be your spirituality. It could be playing with children. It could be doing yoga with other people. It could be meditating. It could be singing, watching sunsets. That could be spiritual for you.
Mm,
It's having a connection with something else
right.
other than yourself. And then professional, again, that's the career piece. So, what do you identify for yourself as your professional stance? Is it your job? Is it sometimes, I don't want to say parenting is professional, but for stay-at-home moms, that's what they're doing all day. So, not necessarily labeling it a job because it's not, it's part of life, but also just kind of embracing and identifying that you're working hard for other
Right.
people as well. And when I say nourishing and depleting, nourishing is, again, another visual, sorry, um, a bucket. So if you think of a bucket, your bucket is you as a whole. There's actually a fun activity I like to do with some of my clients and even myself as a check-in. So I'm envisioning myself as a bucket, and the bucket needs to be full and overflowing for me to give to other people. I can't give to other people if my bucket is depleted. So if it's the water level is very low and not overflowing. And that's what self-care is. Self-care is nourishing. It's filling that depleted bucket. And that is such a huge, and I can share this with you too. There's a self-care assessment that I like to use, and it walks you through all different types of self-care. And I can just briefly, like from memory, list some of those. It could be spending time with others. That could be self-care. It could be making time for reflection, being outside in nature, could be getting a manicure or pedicure. It could be sleep, getting enough sleep.
Yes.
It's so different for so many people. That's why I like to use the self-care assessment worksheet, which really kind of narrows it down a little bit for someone who might be like, I have no idea what self-care is. Um, but I like to associate self-care with what fills you up where you're not exhausted, where you're feeling rejuvenated, energized, and you're able to go out and do the things that you love.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And it's curious, isn't it, that a lot of us don't know when we are at the beginning of this journey, we don't know what self-care is. We've never
Yeah.
even thought about it, and it's so interesting and it's so diverse what it can be, like you said, for each person, because we each like different things, and it doesn't have to look the same for us as it does for the next person, even if that person is our best friend, because we all have different interests. So and I love that some of the things you said was getting outside. I think that's a huge thing, is just getting outside. And that's unfortunately really difficult for some people. I personally have a friend who just always says I don't have time. Like, I don't have time to get outside, even if it's for 5 minutes, it's not. So why do you think it is that we don't allow ourselves to take the time? Because what I've kind of my personal philosophy is we make time for the things that are really important to us. So why do you
Yes.
think it is that we don't make time, a lot of us, just to get outside just for a few minutes?
Absolutely. There can be a lot of factors, but I'll touch on a couple that I've seen before, where I agree too that if it's prioritizing, where are you currently at right now? Where do you want to be? And what are those steps in between to get you there? It's so important to prioritize. Developing a self-care plan can be extremely helpful. Sometimes something new can be scary, right? I mean, we'll just call it as it is. Sometimes doing something new or changing something, change can be scary.
Mm,
Um, I absolutely agree with that. And change can look so minute and it can look so large as well. So for someone who practices it daily, for example, I'll use the example of going outside for a couple minutes a day, um, and not like doing something, but actually like just standing outside. Like
right.
just standing out there and embracing the sunshine. Maybe you're out there barefoot, wiggling your toes in the dirt or the grass, like intentionally going outside just to get some fresh air, some sunshine. Rain can be so cleansing too, whatever it is for you. If it's something new, that can be hard. Developing new habits can be hard sometimes. I think it really takes I think it really requires the individual to look within themselves and say, okay, how important is this to me? Why do I need to do this? What are the benefits going to be? Sometimes if it's something scary or something new and something that you haven't really done before, adding it onto something you already do freely can be extremely helpful. So for example, if you're walking from the house to your car and you park outside, just stop. Like as soon as you get out the door, stop, take 5 breaths. Just take like 5 full circle cycled inhale, hold it for a little bit, exhale breaths, and then walk to your car. You did it. You accomplished it for the day.
Mm,
Or if you park in a garage, right? So here we'll we'll cover all ends here. If you park in a garage and you can't do that, um, when you get to wherever you're going, just stand outside of your car before you enter in the building.
mhm.
Just pause. Take a little bit extra time. Sometimes adding breaths in can help you stand in that moment longer than maybe you would normally. So adding some breath cycles can help. Um, Listing self-care habits you're currently using to manage stress and stay healthy, and you can embrace that as well. So sometimes in the self-care assessment that I like to go over with my clients, and even again, myself, my friends, it's so important to be aware of what you're currently doing and embrace
Mm,
that. Sometimes people don't even realize what they're doing can be self-care. They just need to pause for a minute. That's why I really encourage just breathing. It's kind of my mantra sometimes is just breathe. Just
right.
breathe in this moment, take a couple breaths, and you did it.
Yeah. And breathing brings us right back to the present moment because we're focusing on that. So that brings our attention right back to center where it just, and even if you're not going outside or doing anything else and you bring yourself back to that breath, don't you find that that just kind of eliminates the stress just for like a minute?
Yes, absolutely. It's a skill that is so easily and readily available that a lot of people don't realize. And it can definitely bring you to that present moment anytime, anywhere without even people knowing. Because that's another thing. Sometimes people are like, oh, people are gonna see me standing out here. I'm gonna look weird or whatever the worry may be. But just breathing. I mean, you can sit in your car and just breathe. And I
Mhm.
mean taking good deep breaths. There's so many free apps out there now that can help guide you if you have no idea how to take a meaningful and mindful breath. And when I say mindful and meaningful, it's having the intention to actually sit there and focus on kind of bringing yourself inward to what you're feeling in that present moment. There's actually a fun exercise I like to use with kiddos, and adults can do it too. And again, this doesn't require anyone knowing you're doing it. It's using your 5 senses. What am
Mm,
I hearing right now? Take a breath. And when I say take a breath, that's like inhale and exhale. What am I seeing right now? What am I feeling? Just go through your senses. And it can take a minute. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be that long. And it's a quick reset and a very effective reset too.
Right, it is. And I was talking to someone that I love very much recently about doing diaphragmatic breathing, which is, a deeper mindful breathing. And I said, the cool thing about doing breathing exercises is no one knows because you're already breathing. We all are already breathing. So it's not like someone's going to look at you and be like, "Holy crap, you just started breathing," So
Right.
just
Yeah.
just knowing that it's already a natural part of what you're doing, so it's not going to be like this big huge thing that's you're waving a flag going, "Hey, I'm doing this right now." It's going to be very internal, but it can be super impactful, even though it's, well, I mean, let's just face it, the most impactful stuff happens internally anyway, right?
hmm Yes, absolutely. I feel that that's the most time for reflection as well. Reflecting on where you are in that moment and what's going on. What are you feeling right now? What are you experiencing right now? Not what other people are, not what the world, not kind of what's going on around you in the outside world, but within yourself. What are you truly feeling in that moment? And what are you truly experiencing in that moment?
Yeah. Absolutely. And you said people can schedule a self-care routine. They can write out a schedule. How would someone begin doing something like that? I know you said you have this list of things people can try, but
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of times scheduling can be extremely helpful where it's like, okay, I don't even know where to fit this in. I don't know what to do. Just as it is important to go to a doctor's appointment, right? We schedule doctor's appointments. We schedule going to pick up our kids from school sometimes. Like we work our schedule around those things because they're higher priorities. You can do the same thing with self-care until it becomes more of a routine. It becomes more natural for you. Scheduling in and making it fun, right? So sometimes, like if I schedule in 12 to 1 workout, I mean, for some people, that's probably not very exciting to want to do, but if you kind of add it my power hour or something like that, like have fun with it. This is your self-care plan. It's your do with it what you wish. And the amount that you put in is usually the amount you're going to get out of it too. Um, Practicing self-care, you can kind of check in with yourself like, when am I doing self-care? I strongly recommend at least once a day. And again, it can be something so small as breathing for yourself, doing a meditation in the morning. Every morning with not only myself but my daughter, but while we're waiting for the bus, we do gratitude. That's
mm,
self-care as well. It's reflecting on what we're grateful for. Um, and I'm aware that I'm accepting of, I have affection for, I find myself paying attention to. Kind of having prompts can be helpful as well. But I mean, just practicing gratitude, that can take 60 seconds as well. What am I grateful for today? What am I grateful for this week? Kind of going through, and that really helps you practice self-care in the moment as well. And also, affirmations can be extremely powerful as well. And that's self-care too, because you're giving yourself love. You're telling yourself, I am beautiful, I am capable, I am enough, I am strong. There's so many, those are just a couple. But having those can be extremely helpful to set yourself off on the right foot for the day as well. Having a self-care plan is so helpful to get you started and get you in that routine for yourself. Um, Definitely solutions, coming up with solutions. So having a solution-based mindset is so important as well. There's a fun activity you can do to kind of look at solutions instead of excuses. So creating solutions to make it happen rather than excuses to not make it happen. Um, have a statement. So, for example, I'm going to work out today. What am I going to do to make this happen? Or I'm going to go get a massage today. Or I'm just going to go outside for 10 minutes today. What do I need to do or have in place to make this happen? And come up with 10 solutions. It's amazing how your brain will start coming up with solutions if you give it the opportunity to do so. And listing what obstacles may arise and a solution to that obstacle. So it might seem like a lot of work at first, but it's super helpful to explore these. And again, everyone is different. So that's why you have to kind of do it for yourself and create this self-care plan for you. Having other people do it with you can be helpful too. So if you have like you and your partner, you and your sibling, if you do it together, again, being mindful of having your own because we're each unique and different, that can be extremely helpful as well.
Right, absolutely. And when you're scheduling stuff with other people, I know I personally feel like that can be super helpful sometimes too. It's not always what I want or need. And I think we need to really listen to our souls when it comes to stuff like that, because like you said, we're all different and our needs are different. But I think that, scheduling stuff with other people is sometimes very much self-care, and having boundaries around those times. Like I know for myself, Steve and I spend our evenings together after a certain time. I mean, like we do, you know, like our wind down time before we go to bed. So we're chilling out and just, holding hands, and I know, oh, and all of that stuff. And that's like sacred time to me. Like I really have boundaries around that time where that's all I plan to do. But it's like super just like it feeds my soul just having that time where we're not even really doing anything. We're just enjoying time together. But I also like my personal time as well. So, how do people find balance between those two things, making sure they do the things for just themselves in addition to things with other people?
Absolutely. I feel that having that self-care wheel, kind of visualizing what areas need to be nourished and what areas you're identifying as depleted, can be a great start to see, okay, these are the areas that I really need to focus on and develop and find self-care routines to help nourish these specific areas. I really like what you mentioned about community because that is so important. Having other people there, it's kind of like your tribe, right? So having other people around you is so important because those are the people who can help lift you up when you're feeling a little down. And surrounding yourself with like-minded people or people who are on the same journey as you can be so empowering as well, because it really allows you to continue to grow and it continue to evolve together. Um, it can be challenging and daunting if you're by yourself or living, whether you live alone, whether your likes might be slightly different than that of your partner's. It is important to establish that and say, okay, I need to find other people who like going horseback riding. I'm just using examples for myself. Or I need to find other people like a running community and run with other people. Um, it's healthy to, I love how you said that it's important to have time with partners or people you love, whether it's you live with your family, you live with a significant other, your own children. Also, identifying individual time is important too. And the word you use that I really love and I wanted to elaborate on is the boundaries piece, because boundaries are so important, and using and identifying boundaries can help with that. So when I say boundaries, it's setting boundaries. It's not like you're going to build a fence.
Right.
It's boundaries is because sometimes it's so funny. Like I'm recalling like a time where I was talking to one of my friends. She's like, a boundary? What the heck is that? Like,
Right.
boundaries are so they can be as rigid as you want them to be. They can be as, set in stone as you want them to be. It's kind of like you have the free reign of deciding what boundaries work for you. So setting boundaries to protect one's mental health, one's emotional well-being, is extremely important. And that can be boundaries you set within your head or you share with others as well. So, for example, it could be if you have someone who is not very supportive of, and this is something I learned in my past in the abusive relationship I was in. Um, Defining, okay, like I'm not going to let this person walk all over me anymore. And I'm not going to let this person do X, Y, and Z anymore, whatever that may be. I'm not telling him that. I mean, in my head, I'm saying that like I'm drawing this line and it can't be crossed. So that's extremely important as well and can be extremely beneficial when deciding and deciphering self-care for oneself, whether it's for yourself or with another person as well. And communicating that is super important too.
Yeah, I'm a full believer in good communication, effective communication. And that's been, something that I've had to work on myself because let's face it, we're all human and we don't always handle things or say
Hmm.
things the right way. And
Hmm.
learning how to say things in a way that's received in the way that it's intended is can be a tricky endeavor sometimes, and it can also be dependent upon the receiver of that information because everyone receives information differently. But one of the things I wanted to ask you about is you mentioned the different facets of our lives, the different spokes on the wheel, so to speak, of areas that we need to fill up and may need some more nurturing. What if you're talking to someone and they look at you and they're like, it's all at zero. Like I wouldn't know where to start because it's literally all at zero right now. Is there one place that's more beneficial to begin than another? Because I know, there's been times in my life where I was at dead zero, probably like even my reserve tank was zero, you know what I mean? And I didn't know where to start. So for people who may be listening to this today that are like at dead zero, the tank is dry, where is the best place for them to begin that's going to be the most beneficial for them?
Absolutely. I love that. It is dependent on each individual, but I think as a whole, the advice that I would share to someone going through that would be the power of gratitude. Just starting with being grateful. Gratitude is a very transformative force in self-care, and cultivating a grateful heart can help change our perspective and bring immense joy. And that's something that is so powerful. So each day, finding a moment, again, literally a moment, it doesn't have to be this long, drawn out thing, to express gratitude, whether for a blooming flower, a kind gesture, or simply the air you breathe.
Mm,
Gratitude really amplifies the beauty of your existence. And I feel that that's a great space to start. And then I always say baby steps.
yeah,
Overwhelming can shut people down in a heartbeat. And if it feels overwhelming, take it back. If it still feels overwhelming, take it back. It can be so, it can be such a small step that someone might feel like, well, that's ridiculous. But if you take a second step and that's overwhelming, it's okay. Um, Affirmations, again, are super powerful. I can get through this. I feel that those are two kind of the foundation, the building
mm,
steps for someone who is just at a complete loss, like, I have no idea. I don't know where to turn. I don't know what to do. Gratitude and affirmations are a great foundational piece to start your self care journey, to start helping people see for themselves, I am worthy. I can do this. And then take it the next level, take it to the next step, whatever that may be. Definitely, I feel that community would probably be the next step because if you're at a space where it's extremely overwhelming to the point where you shut down and it's like I don't know where to go, I don't know where to turn, I don't know where to start, being around and submersing yourself with other like-minded people can be so motivating to help you continue to move forward. So I feel like those are the ground pieces to start out if you feel that you're in a space like that.
right. And I totally agree about gratitude. Affirmations are really great too. They were really, really super awkward for me when I first started doing them because I was thought, You're so full of crap, D. I mean, come on. You know what I mean? You are so full
Yes.
of it right now, but you're
Hmm.
not. And the thing is, we get so used to focusing on all of the negative things that it's so much easier. It's just like it's a learned response, right? And
Hmm.
but when we start just giving ourselves those little encouraging words and saying something positive about ourselves. And it doesn't, I mean, like we focus so much on the physical, but it doesn't have to be physical. It can be like, hey, I really fixed my kid a great breakfast this morning, or I get him to
Yeah.
school on time every day, and I'm, that's
Yes.
so amazing. So it doesn't have to be something physical that you're affirming about yourself. It can be something like, you're really kind, or whatever it is. It that's a great reminder. And I love that you gave us examples of gratitudes, because when we're in that dark place in our lives and everything seems so crushingly dark and overwhelming and heavy to us, it's really hard to find those things to be grateful for. So I'm really glad you gave us a few little examples to get us started with that.
Absolutely. And something that I used to have to tell myself in a space where I was at back when my daughter was super young, she was an infant, was um, she's alive, I'm alive, and she made it to daycare and she has a meal. Like that, I fed
Right,
myself, she's fed. Like, I mean, the basic things that people might they take advantage of, they just don't see that. I mean,
right,
I was in a space where I was just like so overwhelmed with what I had going on in my life. Those were I was grateful that I woke up, my daughter woke up, and we are both fed, we're both healthy, and she made it to daycare and I'm in one piece, and we are in a good space. Just because I mean she's my world, and I always was making sure that her needs were always put before mine, but forgetting that my needs needed to be first too, so that I could give her whatever she needed, because if I
right.
was depleted, I wasn't doing anything for her or myself, so I had to remind myself that. And that's something that I forgot. I just didn't think of it until I started to really sit back and look at what I was grateful for. And it was my health, her health, and that we are here to live another day and we are healthy. And that's where I had to start
Hmm.
until I could take a step back and really start picking apart, okay, this is I need to really focus on this and whatnot. That's how far I had to take a step back.
Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of, especially young moms, that are struggling with all of the things of, I mean, there's so much we could go into that really deep for a
Yeah.
long time, I think, but it's, you know, just recognizing what it is you do. That's an accomplishment. I mean, that's not
Hmm.
nothing. That's a big thing. When you take care of yourself and you take care of your child, if nothing else happens that day, you won that day. That's a big thing.
Yes,
So giving yourself
absolutely. Yeah.
credit for that, holy cow, that's big. So I love that.
Yeah, and that's where some people just it's okay. I mean, it doesn't make you any less of a human. We've all to I think I mean, I can't speak on behalf of everybody else. I know I've been there, but I feel that in some way, shape, or form, we've all been there,
Mhm.
whether
Yes,
it's a personal experience we're going through or we're witnessing within someone else that we care about. It's okay to take a step back and say, I just need a moment,
yeah,
whatever that moment looks like for you. If it's a month, if it's a couple, some for some people, like people will go away for a year to find themselves, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what
right,
that person needed for themselves. Sometimes it's just a minute. Sometimes people just need a minute, and that's okay too. I feel like in today's world, people really beat themselves up for taking time for themselves. And that needs to stop because it's so important. And how can we give to others when we can't even give to ourselves?
right. That's very true. And I do think we're trending towards more awareness around this topic, and it's getting
Hmm.
spread around a lot more. Social media is not always the best thing all the time. I mean, I personally have created a pretty awesome space that I enjoy, but it does take work to weed out all the drama and all the craziness and get it to a space where you can enjoy it. But I feel like social media has really helped spread the word about self-care and things like that. And I know I
Yes.
see people sharing memes and stuff about it and different stuff like that, different quotes and different things. But I always hope when I see stuff like that that they're really taking that on. That's
Yes,
because it
that's the other
is,
piece of it too.
yes, it is. Can you speak on that a little more?
Absolutely, yeah. It, I feel that I love how you touched upon that the world is shifting and starting to embrace self-care more so than it used to, which is fantastic, and I love that. And we need to keep pushing that forward. But there are, I mean, as there always is with negativity, with negative things, negativity, and positive things, positivity in the world, we need to find that balance. And anytime I see something negative or harsh on social media, I always, not related to it specifically, but just in general, I'll repost three positive things. And I make sure that I'm reading it wholly or and organically in the moment to myself. And if my daughter's next to me, to her too, I'll read it out loud. Or I'll just sit with that and take a breath or two as I'm reading it, just to embrace that, because that's the other piece of it too, is not only sharing it, but owning it.
Right.
And I feel that society, um, again, there's been a shift, which I think is fantastic and I'm super excited about. But I see a lot of kiddos, they hold themselves to these unrealistic expectations
Mhm.
through social media.
Right.
And it's going to take time for the more positive, inspiring, embracing oneself to weed through. But it's definitely out there, which is good. And
Mhm.
it's something that we just need to keep pushing forward. And I liked how you said that little piece about you hope that people, when they share it, they mean it. That's the
They're
other piece
taking
of
it
it too.
on.
Yes,
Yeah.
share exactly. Yes, sharing it is one thing, but embracing it and holding it to your own heart and standing behind it is the other piece of it too.
Right.
But I don't remember where it was in my grad studies. I read an article that I don't remember the name of the person who wrote it, but there was a sentence that stood out to me that I use all the time, and it is that it takes three positive things, whether it's words, experiences, whatever it may be, to rewrite in the brain over one negative thing. So that's why if I see something negative, I will repost three things that are positive. Or if I feel that because again, we're human, sometimes we say things that maybe we wish we didn't say. Um, I immediately will repeat three positive things to myself. So if I feel like, oh, I'm hard on myself, or I said something that maybe was a little harsh to myself, then I'll repeat three positive things in my head to help kind of rewire that. But that's the power of negativity, is that it takes three positive things to rewrite or overwrite one negative thing. So that's why it's important to continue to embrace the good stuff and hold it true to yourself as well, and just keep putting that stuff out there and hope that it will overtake the negative stuff that's out there, these unrealistic expectations as well.
Wow. Like I almost don't want to ask you why is it that we hold on to the negative so tightly that we need three times as many positive things to counteract one negative thing, you know?
It can be, yeah, and it's so hard to say sometimes. I've seen it where that's just the environment the person grew up in. So that's what they've told themselves for however many years. And now you need to rewrite that.
Mm.
And it's rewriting 20, 30, sometimes more years of negativity that
Yeah,
this person was engrossed in.
right.
It can be, again, we're scrolling through Facebook, we're scrolling through Instagram, TikTok, and we see these people who, um, I mean, it's different for each individual, but it could be, oh, well, their children are like ready to go, or oh, that selfie, she looks so pretty, why don't I look like that? I mean, there's so many different things. Like you could, like, for Thanksgiving, people take pictures of like the big spread, and in the moment it's like, oh, why can't I do that, not realizing that yes, there are good intentions. That person works out every day, or it took her 20 pictures to get that one picture, and that's the one she posted. Or, oh, it took me an hour and a half to put the table together to make it look like the way it looked like in that one picture,
Yeah.
and however many hours to cook it all. So a lot of times we don't see the whole picture,
Mm.
which can cause that in ourselves, like, oh, why can't I do that? Well, you could, but not realizing all the steps behind it, if that makes sense. But then there are some times where people, there's filters. There's so many filters now
Oh
where
my
it's like,
gosh,
okay, well,
so
that person
many.
really doesn't look, yeah. I'm like, that person doesn't, like, yeah, okay, so a lot of makeup and stuff like that. You could probably look like that too, but that person doesn't look like that in real life. And then this
Right.
kid like sees it and that's like their expectation now.
Mhm.
So social media can be a powerful thing in a good way and a bad way.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just what you choose to hang on to, I guess, and bring into your, create, and it's what you want to create. I've had so many people say, "Oh, I'm not on social media because of this or that," and I've said this in previous podcast episodes, but to me, it is what you make it. If you want it to
Yes.
be a negative experience and you don't filter out all of those crap things that are coming through your feed by unfollowing or blocking or deleting or whatever, then that's what you see. And that's what's seeping into your pores every day and just like becoming a part of who you are, whether you realize it or not, honestly. And, or you can do what I did and filter all that crap out. And then when you go into your social media, it becomes this space that's very uplifting and positive because I follow a lot of coaches who are posting really positive content. I'm in a lot of groups that are posting really positive content. And I just want to say this too. Just because you're focusing on the positive does not mean you're unaware of the negative. So these terms like
Yeah.
toxic positivity and toxic gratitude, I don't agree with that because just
Hmm.
because you're focusing on the positive and that's where you choose to put your energy doesn't mean you're unaware of the negative side of things. It's not having your head in the
Yes.
sand. It's just choosing where you want to put your energy and your time and effort.
Absolutely. And another visual that I was taught, which I love and I teach to others too, it's like boxing, right? The negative stuff is always going to be there. It's always going to be around us. You have to block it out. So you block that negative with your arm. Again, visual, you block it out, and then you give it a counterpunch with a positive thing.
Right,
So it's never going away, unfortunately. I mean, you can be selective, right? Like you filtering out people you hang out with. Sometimes you just can't control that, unfortunately. You can't control the people you're around or
right,
the environment you're in. And you have that ability to, and I don't want it to sound easy because for some it's not, and it can be challenging, but there is a possibility to block, again, being aware the negative stuff is there, but block it so it doesn't enter you as a person and counterpunch it with something positive.
right. Yeah, I really love that visual. And I love that you're doing visuals because I think that makes it a lot easier for people I mean, like word association visuals. I mean, we all
Mhm.
learn differently, of course, but making those things become a part of our conversation, I feel like is going to be really impactful for some of the people who are going to listen to this. So, do you have any other last tidbits or pieces of advice or whatever for our
Yeah.
whatever beautiful word we want to call it for our audience today, our community?
Absolutely. I just want to leave everyone with a thought. Self-care is not selfish. It's an essential investment in our well-being. So always remember to be kind to yourself, nurture your passions, surround yourself with positivity, nurture your soul. And I hope that people found inspiration and hopefully practical tips that they can use as well to incorporate self care into daily life, daily routine. And always remember that you are worthy of love, especially from yourself.
Absolutely. That's where it truly all begins. It begins with
Hmm.
ourself. We love having that love and appreciation from other people, but if we don't have it for ourselves, then those are just, I used the analogy one time of, an umbrella in a rainstorm. Like the compliments can come and people, the love can come, but if we
Mhm.
have that umbrella up and we're not loving ourselves, it's not getting to where it really truly needs to be. So, if anyone out there, I thank you so much, Stephanie, for being with me today and
Yeah.
sharing these insights and these beautiful illustrations that you've shared with us today. And if anyone out there would like to have Stephanie coach you through this self-love process and creating time to spend with and appreciate your own self, then please contact her. Stephanie, tell us where we can find you, first of all, and then I'll put all the links in the description box below this video.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, I have, and I'm sorry, I don't know off the top of my head. So I do have an Instagram, I have a Facebook account, and I have a TikTok. And on all of them, I post a lot of positive stuff. My YouTube channel is also on there as well. All of my social media is kind of interlinked with each other as well. But I want to say my platform is at Stephanie period Tebow. So it's Stephanie period Tibault. So if you enter that into either platform, it will bring you to one, and then the rest of the links are within each of them as well. And I'm also associated and work in private practice as well. So I do have a private practice website that I can share as well. It's Mindful Transformations, and I will make sure that I get those to you so you can post them with the podcast.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate
Yeah,
that. As always,
it's
thank
been
you
my
for listening
pleasure.
to this episode of Eternal Evolution of Self. The links will be in the description box below so that you can easily access them and find Stephanie if you would love to have her as your coach. Thank you again. I always love you guys and think of you like you just have no idea. This is such a blessing to me to be able to do this podcast so that I can get this information out there. So please like, share, and subscribe so that we can get this out to even more people, because it's so important right now with everything that's going on in this world that we have a positive place to come and listen to things that are going to feed our souls. So thank you so much, and as always, I love you all.